Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you. Good to see you, Paul. I'm Catherine.
Hi.
I haven't seen you for a long time. Catherine,
Hi.
I haven't seen you for a long time. We've got Mark and Caleb is coming into view, sort of.
Mhm.
So Mr. Ross was going to call in on one of the numbers, so that should work fine. And then he'll come up on the screen as a telephone, a picture of a telephone.
Okay.
So we got a couple of more minutes before we officially start, and then I'll start recording everything.
Okay.
Is the flying good today?
I'm in my basement. I haven't even looked outside yet.
Hi, Caleb. We can see you now.
Hello, how are you?
Just fine, thank you. Extremely busiest I've ever seen it. I
Yeah.
didn't think it could be that busy. 10 of me couldn't keep up with it.
I know it's crazy world out there right now.
It is a crazy world. Everything is like exploded.
Yeah. The yeah, no, just everything. But hopefully things settle down and get back to normal a little bit more here. But it seems unlikely that that'll happen soon.
Not for a while. No, we thought it was, but people got a little bit too excited and ran all around, and now things have kind of exploded in a negative fashion.
Yeah.
Caleb, were you able to make contact with Dave and confirm that he was going to call in?
Yes. He said that he was going to call in. He's
Okay.
driving to Bath, and I sent him a sticky note with the phone number to call and the meeting ID and the passcode so that he said he was going to pull over on the side of the road and call in. So,
Okay. Good.
wow. Anybody else a little disappointed with Mark's wall hangings in his office?
I can't even figure why the whole picture is distorted. I'm sitting like 45 degrees off to the camera to even get in the picture. So I have no idea what's going on. So
Yeah, the pictures can turn out anyway. Sometimes Caleb is all on there, and then sometimes just depends on the internet. Sometimes we only see like Caleb's face is moving around when he's on the council ones. But mine does that too. It's when there's too much going on the internet.
Well, when he gets a lot of positive comments during the day, Catherine, his head swells up quite a bit. And sometimes the camera just can't quite cover it all, so.
That's the reason. All right, now we know.
Yeah.
All right, good. It looks like it's time to start, so I'm going to start all the recording. So thank you all for joining in the airport committee meeting. And the purpose of the meeting is to go over the airport revenues, which includes the lease payments for the land that the hangars are on at the airport and any other revenue sources that we have. This came up because the town council is going through all of the budgets to see how the revenues equal the expenditures, and if they don't, why, and if that's okay or not. And so they wanted you all to go over the airport lease payments as well as other revenues that could be generated. And I think it's also just a good idea to do this anyway, because we haven't done it for a long time. When there's been new leases, which there have been few, or renewals, I sort of increased them if I thought I could. So we've got newer ones at higher rates and some of the older ones that are locked in at the old rates. And so we need to, I think, standardize those to some extent. So I'll let Mark, as the chairperson, take this away. He did all the research and everything, and you all are experts on the airport, not me.
Catherine, before we go to that, Heather had emailed me about wanting to know when the meeting was, and then I thought you sent an email to the town councilors and the
I
airport
did.
committee people.
Yep.
So everybody on the town council knows that this meeting is right now, right?
Yes, they all received their individual invitation. You can also connect into it by going to the town website in like 3 different locations. And so Heather's done very well to connect into all the meetings, as much as she can. So
Yeah,
she
it's
may
long.
connect in. And then if she can't, they can all watch it tomorrow. It should be on the town hall streams.
Okay.
So on the town's website under all the meetings and the events part, you should be able to look at it.
Great.
All right,
All
great.
right, I'll start. I just, we did lose a airport committee member in the last year. That was Don Parsons. He passed away about a year ago, I believe it was. And as Catherine has said, if you've got anybody that you know that would like to be on the town airport committee, please invite them to apply. So with that, Catherine, I had some conversations with Catherine, and she asked me to, said we needed to review, so I agreed to contact airports. I looked at a 60-mile radius around the Pittsfield Airport, but I did exclude Augusta, Rockland, Bar Harbor, and Bangor. They all fall within the 60-mile radius, but the reason I excluded them is that they have commercial service, operate under different regulations, kind of a whole different setup there. So that's being said, we ended up with Dexter, Norridgewock, Belfast, Millinocket, Lincoln, Old Town, Waterville, and then of course Pittsfield. So if you guys all took a look at it, I was really surprised when I looked at it, what the variation was in lease fees and fees in general. It was interesting for me. One thing I would like to point out that Pittsfield's the only airport that's not being managed daily by the municipality. We're the only one that has a full-time FBO or an FBO at that. So that's a really great thing. But we went from a high of you guys probably saw Belfast's rate. Belfast is getting 50.4 cents per square foot, just based on the building footprint. Talking to the airport manager there, Ken Ortman, he's working to get that down. Because he can't attract any new business to the airport. And it's so out of line with everything else in the state, and confirming that with Tim Lesarge at the state, which I also contacted, and we've discussed this. So it's and then we went down to a low, I think, of Dexter is still charging $100 a year flat fee, any size hangar, doesn't matter what size hangar it is. So really, when you look at it, when you really look at it, the other airports that we probably are going to get ourselves somewhat in line with would be Waterville and Waterville's probably the closest where it would be for rates, and they've got different rate structures. For most of the small structures, they've got a flat fee. And some of those rates would be more reasonable than what we've got now, which was somebody like, say, John Watson's hangar, it would be less in I believe, than what he's paying. But I've seen the number of 7 cents per square foot. Currently, we've got leases, I guess, between 4 and 7 cents. Is that correct, Catherine?
That would be correct, yes. Older ones
and-
are at 4.
And I guess what I would like to see, that we adopt a common lease rate for a property that has a building on it. And that there's
Or property that could have a building on it.
What's that?
I said property that could have a building on it.
Could have a building on it, correct. And I'd also like to see the lease rates, Catherine, if we could tie it into the consumer price index yearly, an increase. And then we have a going hangar rate that everybody across the board is paying the same rate. We've got some people, I know that the Woodworth hangar, he's paying the rate that he probably established back in 2004 or 5. Am I correct on that, Catherine?
Yes, yes.
And so we all know that Frank's going to grumble about that, but he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And the way I see it, just he's got a great deal now. Even at 7 cents a square foot, he'd be getting a good deal compared to, say, Waterville or Belfast. But so what I'm proposing is that I would like to see us go to 7 cents a square foot, unless somebody thinks we should do differently, for property that a building could go on. I think there is one of the things that we need to look at is that I can take a look at, when you look at the yearly payments, like the Chimbro, the land for the hangar, we're currently leasing 16,280 square feet, 16,283,000 square feet. And I know there's Chimbro no longer hasn't had any close to that amount of square footage in years, but we've just gone ahead and paid it. So, but I think most members know right now that Chimbro is going to be building a new hangar where the town hangar is going. So we're going to be at that new lease rate, and so that's going to be a new lease right there. Caleb's going to be putting up hopefully another hangar. That's going to be an additional property to compensate for the town hangar. That's going to be probably at a higher. It's going to be probably a higher rate than what he's paying for the lease, plus also the property taxes that are going to be greater than what the town hangar was. So currently, I think the leases are bringing in about $5,643 is what we see. At 7 cents, with those present figures, I'm projecting that we see it increased by about $2,100, rough figures, up to $7,703. So it's not a huge increase. It's going to help out. But I think we're going to see in this coming year, we're going to see a tremendous increase in the tax base down at the airport. I think it's going to be a big jump. So and probably the biggest reason is because of the Chimbro hangar coming in. So that's a good thing for the town also. But there's other property on the airport. One's the Gale Realty taxiway. That's really an unbuildable piece of property as far as a building. And also the property behind what's now the Woodworth and the Robinson hangars. It's unbuildable for the fact that we could never fit another piece of property in there. So I was wondering if how people felt about a secondary rate. So maybe for like the taxiway with Gale Realty and some of the other property, maybe even out Caleb rents, I believe. I don't know exactly what the footprint is, but he rents ramp space out in front of the pumps. And maybe we have an alternate rate of, say, 7 cents or 6 cents or something on that line for property that really nobody could put a building on. Just my thought. I don't know how the other board members feel about it. Any input?
I was going to ask you about that when you're looking at the rates in just the fact that if somebody needs to lease the land to gain access to the runways or the ramps or the taxiways, would that be at a different rate? That was one of the questions I did have. But I'm in agreement with it that if you can't build on it or put a building on it, but you need it for ramp and taxi access, then by all means, set a separate rate for it.
Well, and I don't think that you can't block out buildable property, but in the case, I'm looking strongly at two things, and that would be, Caleb can't put a building on in front of the fuel pumps, you can't, and the Gale Realty couldn't have a building on it because it's too close to the runway, but also it's basically swamp through there, it's lousy soil, so you couldn't do anything there. So, I don't know how people feel about that. I mean, the only other property that we'd be talking about right now would be a small strip of land between the Robinson hangar and the Woodworth hangar, and that would maybe be, they'd have X number of square feet at one, and then, from the 57-foot mark out from the taxiway is where their ramp starts to their building. They've got the ramp, and they've also got the building footprint plus a 10-foot setback that they'd be paying the 7 cents on. It's just a thought, but we're not talking about a whole lot of money either, as far as the Woodworth and the Woodworth and the Robinson hangar, and both of them knew at that time that they were going to be paying a lease rate for that property. So, but does Caleb, you'd like it just for the fact that it helps you out a little bit. You do. I just look at the taxiway that goes back to the Gale Realty hangar there, which now Caleb's is just dump land. It does generate a couple $100 worth of revenue, and at a higher rate, it would go up by about $110 a year. So it's not a huge increase. But, he's currently paying 5 cents a square foot on that for that property. So,
just a couple of and maybe Mark, you can correct me on this if I'm not saying it right, but I think, Catherine, one of the things that's different about a lot of the other airports is they don't a lot of the other airports just lease pretty much like a footprint of where the hangar and like ramp space is. They don't lease like there's 150 foot deep lease, that's the kind of the standard depth of the space that comes, that Frank has been leasing, and then David Robinson has been leasing, and then I leased that same amount. But actually 150 feet puts you into the trees from the edge of the taxiway there. And a lot of other airports, they just lease the actual hangar footprint plus the setbacks around it. So the person that has that piece of property, they're not necessarily leasing the whole. Yeah.
The way I see that, I know what you're saying, Caleb, and we need to remeasure. And like I said, we know that just like the new hangar that hopefully the bids are going to come back that we can do it for the Town T hangars, they have to be set back 57.5 feet from the taxiway. So I'm proposing if we were to, I think we need to update all the square footage on what's being leased, because I think a lot of the numbers are off by quite a bit, but I would propose that the lease for the lots that are on the where Woodworth and Robinson hangars are, the lease starts at 57.5 feet from the center line of the taxiway, which is just about where both Frank and Robinson's ramp are. They start in that area, and then they've got a minimum amount of ramp to the hangar. They got this footprint of the hangar plus the 10-foot setback as a minimum. I think we need to maintain at least a minimum for the taxiway, which is 57.5 feet on either side, so we don't get into the case where we are right now, that we've got actually the snow removal building and the tie downs and the town hangar, well, the existing town hangar as it was, we've penetrated that by about 10 or 15 feet. So we want to try to keep that open to the full width that the FAA would like us to see it open.
So I have paperwork going back to 1997. I could go back further, but These blocks were created back in 97 or even previous to that. And then I think that system just continued on. So Frank was the first one that we did when I was here. The others, about 6, 7, 8 were done just before I got here. And so we did blocks. So he told us what he wanted, and then we just started making blocks all the way down.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know what the dimension is, Catherine, from the, if we were to do a 57-foot setback from the center line, and then start from there to the tree line, I don't know what it is. It'd be interesting to know. I'm sure that the tree line has grown in 20 years also. So it's
Well, I know, Mark, that if I set my building the face of the new 60 by 80 box hanger that we're talking about building, or that we're working on right now, if I set that flush with the face of David Robinson's hanger, which is set probably 10 feet forward of, like, or maybe even more than that, 10 or 15 feet forward of where the face of Frank's hanger is, I have to remove about 10 feet of like brush to have a 10-foot space around the building,
okay. So I'm showing roughly I'm just using Google Maps, but it's just I was just doing a measurement. I'm looking at the Robinson hanger. I'm measuring on Google Maps roughly from the edge of the pavement to the tree line of 146.3 feet. That was what I see right now. So, and roughly from the back of the Robinson hanger, from the back of the Robinson hanger to the tree line is bear with me here. Is like 50 feet. So you said you were going to place your hanger within how much? So you say you're going to have to cut out tree scale to go back?
Cut out some brush. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not really any trees there per se, but yeah. Yep.
So I think the idea was, one of the reasons with having the hangers there, first off, they are preferred hanger spots because they are facing south, so they do melt off versus being on the other side. And in the case of David Robinson or Frank's got some bigger aircraft or multiple aircraft that they can park their plane on the ramp out in front of their hangar, and they don't block the taxiway. They don't penetrate that safe area. So
Yep.
I think that it's good if we can, that we maintain that they have to have that there has to be, I think the ramp in front of the Robinson hangar is probably minimal. It's smaller than Frank's, but I'm looking at the paved area in front of the Robinson hangar is 40 to 45 feet deep.
Whatever we do with the measurements, whether we keep them the same or they're changed and the leases are updated or new locations are changed, we do need to make a new airport map for the hangars. The one you made was really good at the time, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Caleb. And there's going to be new footprints, and then we need to define what they are. And it would be nice to, yeah, some things have changed. It's like
Because
different ownerships, and I think like the 16,000 square foot lease that Kimbrough's paying on was back in the 80s. Kimbrough used to own both the green hangar and the hangar that they're basing their plane in now, and that was sort of the combined square footage of those two buildings. And we haven't owned the second building for 1990, 80. Was it when did your dad take over, or when did the FBO take over? It was 30 years ago.
yeah, it was in the 80s.
But,
So, Catherine, I think that Nils could help us pretty good with a new layout, anyways, and then we could probably even mark something up. And I bet Nils has been pretty helpful from Hoyle Tanner with me as far as getting different, layout maps of the airport for my site plan process. And so I think it would be pretty easy for him to, print something off that would show the area that we want to show. And maybe that's what we should do first, is go out there and get really good measurements on what everybody has and decide what is a fair thing. Like, do we want to do 10-foot setbacks? Because I don't think anybody wants to pay less per se. I mean, everybody agrees that we should be paying more. It's just, we also need to be in line with what, other airports are, so that we can be competitive. Because if we end up being significantly more than Waterville, and, I mean, I'm not so worried about Dexter, but I mean, if we're significantly more than a lot of those places, it's going to be hard to compete in several years,
I agree with you to a certain extent on that. I mean, Pittsfield does have a certain amount of desirability, Caleb, just for the fact that it's a thriving airport. It's got a full-time FBO there with manned 7 days a week. There's a steady supply of fuel. When I look at, you actually could take a look at some of the smaller hangars. If you were to base that on even a smaller hangar, the size of, let's just take John Watson's hangar. That hangar would be $500 a year at Orange Walk, where he's paying, I think, $180. And now he's paying $180 right now at the current rate. That would go up to $252. So he's still getting a hell of a bargain at Pittsburgh. So I mean, I would like to propose right now that at least the airport committee propose that all existing leases for buildings be changed to 7 cents. And I think we should explore what kind of property, because I have no idea how much property Caleb's leasing in front of the pumps. We do know the Gale Realty taxiway, but I would like to maybe propose, at least for what's termed unbuildable property, that we maybe consider a secondary rate.
So Caleb's lease has multiple locations with a total. So we would have to figure out exactly what they are. We don't know what the totals are unless we measure them for each.
And that's what I don't understand, Catherine, is I have no idea. Just like I said, I can speculate where Chimbro's getting where we're leasing 16,000 square feet, but it's I think it goes back to the numbers that back in the 80s when Chimbro leased property from the town, and we had the green hangar, and you might come close to 16 with the green hangar, and I think the existing hangar that we're in with the hangar is somewhere around 9,000, and then maybe add the green hangar, maybe that's somewhere under.
So I had to reduce, you pointed out that the lease amount wasn't correct for the square footage. So a number of years ago, it seems like it was around 2009-10, but I can check, we changed that. And Chimbro's lease went down to at 972, and then it stayed there for a while until the swap started with Caleb, and then it went up by a few $100s.
Yeah, I don't know where so if I look at this 16,283 square feet, I don't know where that is. It says that we're leasing B and C. I don't know what B and C is.
Yeah, they're on the map that is hard to read.
And I don't have a copy of that map. I gotta admit to you. So, and I don't know that Chimbro, the only building that I know that Chimbro owns right now is, or it did own, was the hangar that you're based at right now. That's the only hangar that we had. So,
yeah, you got the base one, and then there was a swap with Caleb. There was some swapping that went on that added back to your numbers. Your numbers were way down for years, and then they got added back up.
Is the airport map that you've got that's labeled with A, B, C, and D? I know I've seen the map because I think I created it, but I don't have it.
Yes, you did. It was very good at the time.
Is that something you could scan and send out a copy to us?
I can, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. But I don't think that anybody on the board is objecting to raising the rates, Catherine, and making it a standard rate. It makes it easy too. If somebody comes to you and says, "What's the rate?" You've got a rate, and increases by the CPI every year. That's great. So the other thing is one of the things that should we vote on that now just for the present buildings, or how should we do that?
All right, I think that if you're all in agreement on that, I think that's a good thing to do. And you can do that before you go out and do the measurements. It's probably good to vote. Let's check and see, can Dave hear us and talk?
I got you. I'm here.
Great, thank you. All right, so you
Yeah.
do have a quorum.
Okay, so I'm proposing that we standardize the rate for all present buildings at 7 cents a square foot. Based on the numbers that we have right now. But there might be some adjustments when we get measurements that we'll have to go out and actually get new physical measurements, create a whole new, I guess you'd say, a layout of the airport, building dimensions, setbacks, things of that nature.
Oh, I'm
Anybody-
totally in
anybody
agreement
have an
with
issue
that.
with
That's
that?
fine.
What's that?
I said, I'm totally in agreement with that. When you speculate going up to the 7 cents a square foot, and with the speculation of maybe an alternate rate for non-buildable land
Okay.
at a lower rate, but that's, yeah. I don't think 7 cents a square foot is gonna put us out into an area where people are gonna shy away from it. That's still a wonderful rate for the area, considering what you have for services and just the availability. So I see no problem with that at all.
Dave, how do you feel about it?
I back it up 100%.
Okay.
And I'm good. I don't know if I'm allowed to vote, but I think this is just an advisory thing anyways, so.
Will be, yes.
And I'm sure that Paul or Caleb and I or Dave, or that we can get together and come up with the new dimensions and make sure that we all understand where we are and come up with a new map of what we've got for it hasn't been updated.
Yeah.
We have some new things, areas have grown in, and take a look at that. But
I got a 100-foot tape and some grade stakes. We can go out and knock it out.
I've got the same thing in my truck right now, so it's
That's what you know.
Good.
Thank you.
so I'm good with that. If do we need anything more for a vote on that, Catherine?
It sounds like you, by consensus, you're all in agreement, so that's
Okay.
fine. So I
Yep.
should say that any rate changes by the leases, they get 30 days notice. And
Okay.
it needs to go to the town council to be added to our, to an order for all of our fees. So that will take a couple of weeks anyway.
Okay. Also, the other thing that I explored, Catherine, was you had mentioned that the town council wanted to know if there was any, if we had any room for fees or increasing the fees. And I looked at the airports. The airport closest to us being Waterville does have a fee structure. And the majority of that, it's waived if people purchase fuel. They're encouraging to buy fuel. There's no, most airports don't have a landing fee. Or if they do, it's for, it'd be like for commercial aircraft, which Waterville is apt to have more fractional ownership or charter aircraft than we're going to get. We don't get, if we get 5 aircraft a year of that nature, I would say that's probably we just don't see that kind of traffic here in Pittsfield. One of the reasons is that our runway is 4,000 feet, and for a lot of those guys, it's just too short. So, and
Yeah.
um,
Do you think Puritan will make a change and corporate planes will be coming in to visit them facilities, or?
no, I don't believe so. So,
No.
I don't see it.
Okay.
There's not many main-based companies that have aircraft, is what I found, Dave. Even when I worked in Auburn, when I ran the FBO down in Auburn Lewiston,
Right.
there's not many that have aircraft and not many, even places like at the time Boise Cascade or IP or something like that.
Right.
They used Augusta, or a lot of them just went to Portland and drove from there because Portland's got the full de-ice, got the hangars, they got the GPUs, things like that.
Right. Okay.
So I don't really.
Let's do it.
I don't see any room really, Catherine, as far as like I said, right now in Pittsfield, or looking at the other airports, I mean, Dexter has no fees. Norwich Walk is, they get $30 a month for tie downs or $5 a day for a transient aircraft. There's no fees at Belfast. There's Millinocket only gets fees for turbine aircraft, and they'll waive that with a fuel purchase. Lincoln has nothing there. Old Town, there are no landing fees, and they'll waive the transient aircraft fees for tie downs. I just see any kind of a fee in Pittsfield, you might as well, it doesn't, it's a negative, it has a negative effect on the airport, so.
So one item I think would be helpful is, first, the concern is the revenues are less than the expenditures at the airport. And we did really well on the expenditures at the airport until we had to source out the airport plowing and everything. And then Caleb had trouble finding somebody that could work for the very inexpensive rate that took place before for many years. And so the town Public Works, we talked about having them take over the snow plowing because that was significantly reduce Caleb's costs, reduce hours, and probably make Caleb very happy. That has not come to pass yet, and I'm not sure that it will. There's some arguments coming up against that. So I think the concern is that the airport costs more than the revenue that's brought in. So there's indirect revenue that the town gets from having the airport and benefits. So if you were able to work with me to come up with what the benefits of having the airport and what it helps, do people come in and eat dinner or lunch at the restaurants? You know, it's an indirect cost. Do they come in shopping at Rennie's? Is it all just recreational?
I mean, I can give you, I can
Things like
provide
that.
you with all sorts of data, how an airport and how a town benefits. So I can work with the National Business Aircraft Association, and also the aircraft, big source would be for any of us. I think a lot of us are members of AOPA, and they have full-time people that are willing to work with you to tell you on the benefits of.
All right, that would be helpful. There was a really good study done by the Maine DOT. It was over 10 years ago, but it had all the airports studied to see the economic impact on the communities. And we were one of the highest ones in terms of the general aviation for the benefits and the economic impact on the community. I think we were third from the top, highest economic impact in jobs and other revenues that came in from the airport. But that study, you know, is I think 12 years old now, and the state obviously isn't going to do another one.
Well, and I think you can look at there's several businesses in town, CML, Chimbro, that operate aircraft, and so they're both major employers in town, and they depend on a business aircraft because it's basically. You know, Maine's sort of at the end of the supply chain. It's not central to their business. CMLME's business is, you know, it's headquartered out of New York. I mean, but there's different things of that nature. I think you look at that. The other thing I'd also like to point out, Catherine, is there's, I don't know exactly, I had the number, but I don't have it in front of me, what we took in for tax revenue, but also that's, you know, all that comes in on property tax there doesn't have any impact on the schools. Majority of them don't have any impact on water or sewer. So, I mean, to me, that looks as a factor also.
Yeah, it's another benefit. So I think if we put together a airport benefit sheet, that would be really helpful. So if you all could work on that, I can help. I'll do the tax revenue part.
Yeah, I'm willing to do some work on that, and like I said, there's a lot of, this isn't an uncommon, it's not an uncommon thing that airports deal with, and there's aviation groups that are advocates and have full-time people that will assist committees like us or a single person to show the economic benefits benefits of an airport. So, also, you look at it, we don't have, I look at it is, I personally don't see why Caleb is supplying the operator for the plow. That's just me personally. I think Caleb has a liability. I think it should be a function of the town. It's a municipal airport, it's municipal municipal equipment. I think that the town should supply the operator. So I think it's very generous of Caleb for all these years to supply the operator, and but he's still sticking his neck out. He has a certain amount of liability that if something happens and it's due to the condition of the airport, then it's he's one way or the other in this day and age of lawsuits, he's going to get sucked into it, and he's going to have to defend himself. So,
Well, at this point, it is part of his lease agreement, and he's been doing very well at it. And we never have any comments when he has to raise the rate because of workers' comp or something. But I have tried to get that under the auspices of the Public Works Department, and it's not working well at this time. But that doesn't mean we won't continue to look at it as we change services over the years, add and subtract staff and everything. But we do appreciate Caleb taking care of that.
so then I guess I look at that and then just say again for Caleb, that's if we can't get our own public works crew, every other airport either contracts it out or has public works. So in that case, I think Caleb is doing the town a great service right there, and that's worth to me, that's an economic benefit. Of course, he does have a vested interest in keeping the airport open for his business. But, also, the town does have a vested interest in keeping the airport open for the businesses that use it, and it's worked very well. But I don't understand why the Public Works Department says, "Oh, we can't do it."
Well, it'll be discussed. It'll be discussed again. It's considered to be an hours, or I don't want to say manpower issue, but a number of tasks and how many items can get done in winter with the number of staff. So
I do have to say that they've been pretty good. The town Public Works has been proactive when we've had some other things that need addressing down at the airport. They've been good about getting there and taking care of them. Whether it's moving some trees back that have fallen into safety areas, or fire extinguisher inspections, things like that, they keep up with it. But the Public Works has been good that way. But I think it's a huge liability for Caleb to be supplying the operator for the snow removal equipment. It's just.
Okay, I'm sorry I got to interrupt, but I got to leave.
thank you, Dave.
You
Thanks,
got my vote, and I'll keep abreast with everybody.
All right, very good.
Thank
Well,
you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
more meetings. All right.
Hey, Thank you. We'll
Yeah,
talk to you later.
So we do appreciate Caleb taking care of the snow plowing. Continue to look at that.
I know you do, Catherine. I'm making it known that, and I always have made it known that I think sticking his neck out. So, but anyways, that's I guess at this point, as far as fees, the only thing that we can end this meeting, that we have agreed to up the rates to 7 cents a square foot for the existing buildings. We're gonna remeasure and verify the measurements of the buildings, make a new map. Catherine's going to send out the existing
Tax.
layout that we've got at the airport, so we can verify that. And we'll have to get back together for another meeting, for another discussion when we get a little bit more information. But in the meantime, I'll work with seeing about getting some information that we can supply the town council about the benefits of having an airport in town. One thing that talking with the state, with Tim Lesarge with the state, is he points out that a lot of people seem to think that aviation is a lot of these plane owners are wealthy people, and it's just the opposite. That there's a lot of more people in town that have far more money tied up in ATVs and snowmobiles than they do in their little airplane. So it's aviation can be an expensive hobby, but a lot of these guys have minimal aircraft to be able to maintain their hobby. So
Oh, I'm sure the costs are expensive. So I'll also put together the tax revenue from the hangars. And I will pull out the study, which I believe is about 12 years old now, and on the economic impact. And, you know, we were right up there because we had a full-time fixed base operator, and we had a lot of companies that had their corporate planes here.
And the other thing, one of the things, Catherine, is that it's located off the airport, is the Chinquet hangar, but that brings in almost $5,000 a year in tax revenue.
Mhm.
So I think that should be included. Although it's off the airport, it borders the airport, and actually, I believe that some of, yeah, it borders and it's has direct access to the airport. So I think that should be included in there. It does have water and sewer in it, but it's minimal. It doesn't have any impact on
I'll give
school.
it its own little category there, so it's on the
Yeah.
sheet.
So,
Good. All right, does any of the members have anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have one more thing that's on my mind. I talked to the Amish group that's been cutting the hay down here the last 3 or 2 years.
Mhm.
And I think they've been doing a really fine job. They would like to fertilize the soil, but they don't want to fertilize the soil unless they get like a agreement that they can cut the hay there for several years.
I'm assuming that they're going to be fertilizing it with chicken or horse manure. They're not going to be using municipal waste. Is that correct? Do you know what?
Yeah, well, we would have to make sure that that was the case. But yes, I assume that you're right there, but I think we need to make sure that they know they can't use municipal waste. Yep.
Just because of the problems we've seen lately of some of these places that had been fertilizing, we do. There are places that had heavy metals and things like that end up in the soil. We don't need to have that. So
Yeah.
All right, so Caleb, you can get a little bit more information on that. And is there a way to get measurements of the area that they're cutting? It's pretty large.
What do you,
The area, the measurements of.
Catherine, that could be in 5 minutes. You literally could get the measurements off like Google Maps. It would put you in a pretty good. I could give you rough measurements pretty quick.
Okay, that'll be.
Are you
fine.
looking for how many acres of, like,
Need to define it on the face of the earth. So if we can use Google Maps, that's fine.
okay. Yeah, because I think that they'll keep cutting it. Just the reason why the other farmers didn't want it is because the hay is not growing all that great, and it's not really that dense of a field. It's pretty sparse. And it really does need to be fertilized. And I think they just don't want to fertilize it and then have another farmer come in and take it the year after. That's all.
Okay, we'll have to check into a few details on that. But in the meantime, if we got from the Google map, so we can define it on the face of the earth, that'll be very helpful.
Oh,
Okay.
Heather's got
Do you
something.
want that defined as, do you want that defined as, it'd probably be easiest just to define on each side of the active runway and then what's on the east-west. Well, we're going to be building some on the east-west runway, but it's, do you want that defined in acres, Catherine?
Acres would be good, yes.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Caleb? On that fertilization issue, has there been any concern or is there any concern of wildlife attraction if that becomes, you start growing things next to a runway, it tends to attract big things that airplanes don't like. That would be my only concern with that as far as the wildlife management portion of the airport. And I don't want to attract any more than we really have now. That would be my only concern with the fertilization of that, if that would have any impact at all.
They've fertilized the side of the runways before, as you know, like other farmers, and I don't think we've noticed any increase in wildlife. But I have gone to some different wildlife things, and they talk a lot about getting, if you can cut it a couple times a year, it really cuts down on the amount of wildlife that come out there. So, and Heather's got a question too.
It's the same thing. So yeah, I agree with you on that. So it's,
Okay.
All right, Heather.
I was just going to say Mark's question about the municipal waste. We actually have an ordinance against that. So it would just be manure that would be in there that they would be applying. But my guess is for the Amish, they would either contract with somebody to spread liquid manure, like cow manure, or it would just be cleanings from their own barns. It's a pretty distance from where they are though, so I would guess they would have somebody truck it in and then spread it that way. The town might want to consider working with the NRCS and getting a nutrient management plan for that though, if it's going to become a regular thing to be processing and having that spread, just to make sure that it's not over fertilizing where there's so many wetlands surrounding the airport area there.
Yeah, traditionally, Heather, I can go back, I can go back to the early 80s, 81. And back then, I'm going to say from 81 to 95, I know it was fertilized with probably liquid chicken manure or something at the time. And it was harvested just for the quality of the hay that they got off. And so I don't know of anybody fertilizing it. Do you, Caleb, in the last 20 years? I don't think it's happened.
We've had trucks come out back when
Grignon?
not Gregnan, but I can't remember the for 4 or 5 years we had another farmer come down and they would come out with their trucks and they had like a big kind of sprayer on the back of it, and they would, and it would stink for a day and then it was done, type of thing. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear, Heather, that there is an ordinance that prevents municipal waste, which is great. And I agree with you that I think that the Amish are going to go to the greener method, which is just manure. So it's of one sort or another. So I guess we could pursue the NR. That was it. Natural Resources Commission. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, natural resources. The office is over in Skowhegan for Somerset County, and they can do some technical assistance and put a plan together. It would just be a good idea, I think, because we have so many wetlands surrounding the airport there, to make sure that there isn't too much being put on at once. And it can also give some guidance as far as, how much should be put on there at any given time.
Is that a free service?
Yeah.
Is it basically just a soil analysis?
Yeah, you can do soil tests to start, and that'll give recommendations. They just get sent up to the university. They give recommendations as far as what should be applied and at what rates, depending on what you want out of the land. Obviously, you don't want to turn this into super crazy. Well, the Amish would like it to be really good hay ground, but there is that concern of, you're going to be drawing in deer when you have a lot better crop for them to eat. They really like the low growing stuff, so they're going to be more visible than when it's high right before you cut. But if they're going to cut it a couple times a year, then that will help also to keep it down short, rather than just getting one poor cut in the fall or late summer and using it for bedding hay or something like that.
Right now, they're getting 2 poor cuts. The quality of the hay is really lousy. So
yeah,
definitely think
and
that-
that makes it hard on the farmer end of things. It's a lot of work, especially for them to put up hay. It's a lot of work for very little reward, and so that's their motivation in wanting to put some fertilizer on there, is to get a better yield for that. And plus, with the droughts in the last few years, a lot of farmers are having a hard time getting enough hay put up to begin with. So being able to fertilize that and have better healthy soils and have better crops growing will certainly help them too.
Well, maybe we can I'll go ahead and get the acreage for you, Catherine. That's easy enough to generate. And in the meantime, maybe Caleb can make contact with them and see what they're proposing to put on there for manure, and what kind of rate. And we can also explore working with the university or the NRC over in Skowhegan to see that we're not over applying.
No, that sounds good. And I'm also going to do some checking. We've kept away from the leases because all leases are supposed to bring in an economic return for the town. So I'm hoping that these are exempted. So I'll do a little research on the FAA requirements. So we've just pretty much done this by word of mouth or a letter. So we'll see what we need, what we can do here.
Well, I think the lease too here, the economic return here is we are not contracting with someone to pay them to take cuts of the hay. So I think that's the lack of a cost to us is the economic return on that.
Yeah, for us, it's just a sensible item, and these are all sensible things. The FAA requirements sometimes don't appear to be sensible in some areas. So this may have an exemption, or it should have an exemption. So I'll look into all that.
I think it's just beneficial for us to have it cut, just,
Of course,
yeah, so it's,
of course. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, that sounds good, Kathy.
Yeah, that sounds good. Heather, you came into the meeting late. Did you have any comments about the airport or anything you wanted to say?
No, sorry. I was thinking it was 1:30, not 10:30, and I just got the agenda for the council meeting and it mentioned the airport, so I double checked and saw that it was 10:30. No, we didn't have a council representative, so I popped on just to say that there was a counselor here, I guess. But no, thank you.
appreciate you joining in, so.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you all very much. I think we'll be having more meetings. This way works really good for all of you because you're in different locations. So we'll probably continue this. We'll need at least one or two more. And then maybe a yearly one would be good too.
No, it is a convenient way of meeting and for a lot of us, like I said, I can, most of the time between 10:30 and 1:30, I'm sitting somewhere so I can join in from anywhere. I just happen to be in the office this morning, so heading out right now, so.
All right, great. Thank you all very much. Have a nice weekend.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you
Thank you.
too.
So long.
Take care.
Thank you.